is Action Strings for Native Instruments Kontakt. Now, Action Strings is a collection of 154 phrases. Of course, they were all played live by a full orchestra. We have 62 themes. Of course, those contain 5 phrases that belong together, each of the 62 themes. In this video, we're going to go over everything in the manual. Of course, this is better than the manual because you'll actually see what everything does. So let's go ahead and look at Action Strings. Here is the Action Strings instrument in Kontakt. Click the instruments there for a drop down. Now there's only one in KI, so one instrument. You could of course have multiples instantiated here in Kontakt if you want, and of course just route those properly. All right, but there's only one instrument here. Now, if you've seen the emotive strings video, a lot of this is going to be very, very similar. There are a couple differences though, especially when it comes to velocities. But let's go ahead and start up here at the top. So we have our expression, which we can control by dragging the slider. This is our mod wheel. Of course, drag it down here. Of course, adjust it on our keyboard or program it in your DAW. So let's hear that. By using your mod wheel, this expression, you can get a more realistic string part there. Over here, we can see our current phrase. If we highlight our phrases here, we'll see the names, as well as the time signature and the original BPM that they were played in at. You can see here we have major, minor. Now you'll probably be familiar with this if you've seen the emotive strings video, but things are a little bit different here. Same for all of these. We can see exactly what these are. Then we have velocity. So right now, that says single P. Single P means single phrase. Okay. Now something like this, our last Heroes 1, which is major, minor, 4/4-100 BPM. You can see up here it says melodic. It says minor there. It says major there. Same key. Played in minor, or I hit it really hard. It says staccato. So all of these will have staccato. Not all of them will have major and minor. The ones that have major and minor will say major and minor, and you'll also see that in your phrase menu. So if we click any of these phrases here, we can come in here to our phrases, and you can see all the ones that are marked major, minor, major, minor, major, minor. The ones that are not marked major, minor will still have the staccato. So those notes or those velocities to trigger the major or the minor. So the major will be triggered by a velocity range of 1 to 69. The minor mode will be triggered with a velocity of 70 to 125. And the staccato one shot will be triggered with 126 to 127. So very, very, very hard there. Now here in Kontakt, we of course know that our keyboard that we click on here is velocity sensitive. So if we click way up here, gives us major, down a little farther, gives us minor, and then way down here, staccato. So of course that also applies on your keyboard, and it applies whenever you're programming this in your DAW. Come in here, we'll just use this. We'll just have that there. So for our velocity, come back here to this first one, we'll set this velocity down to say 62, because it's 1 to 69 for our major. We'll set this one here, say 90, doesn't matter, anywhere between 70 and 125 will be the same thing. And then this one will be 126 or 127, all the way up. And whenever we play that back, instead of the velocity affecting it like it normally does, right? It's going to change the phrase mode. Squeeze that back and you'll see that up here. Major, minor, and staccato. All right, I just want you to be aware of course, this applies when you're playing it in, right? But it also applies, of course, in programming as well. And that's how you would do that. You can always come in here later on after you play everything in, or, you know, if you program it, whatever, and adjust your velocities to get your different modes. And this is very important whenever it comes to triggering, say, 2 things at once. We can play more than one note at the same time. So of course I could play But I could also play 2 notes. Or 3. But it's very important that we use the same velocity for those other notes. Otherwise, we can have a major phrase and a minor phrase playing at the same time, and that might sound kind of bad. Just sounds off, right? That's because we had the lower in major and the upper in minor. And that was both minor. So of course, it's going to sound better because we were doing octaves there in that case. Let's head on to our themes. So we're on slots 1 to 5. We also have slots 6 to 10. These will be empty whenever you load up a theme. You can, of course, load in your own phrases in here, but we'll look at the themes right now. We can click the name here, or we can click the magnifying glass icon. Takes us to our themes. Of course, themes are a collection of 5 phrases that, quote, go together. You can, of course, mix and match your phrases with the phrase browser as well. But come in here, choose a theme, filter by the high ensembles, the low ensembles, single pitch, melodic, or the combis there. We can also do 4/4 or odd timing, depending on the other filters you have on. Of course, it will depend on exactly what you see. So we could load up a low ensemble. Let's say the combi here, just that one. Now I can double click or use the check mark. That's a whole new theme. In this case, it only loaded up a few things here. So of course I can play up the keyboard, so up in pitch. Again, keep in mind if I play way down here, that's just the staccato one shot. Okay. Now to trigger different phrases, we can click or use our triggers down here. Obviously on your keyboard as well. And of course, program those notes in your DAW. Let me go to a different theme here. We'll just grab this one and test it out. So switch the phrase. Again, we can see that's a single P or single phrase. We can also just hover over this. All of these are just single phrases, no major or minor. But we still have the staccato. So to switch between these, I can hold down a key on my keyboard and just click. There's the ending note there to end the phrase. We could also, of course, trigger that with our keyboard. And that was holding down multiple notes. And of course, we could program these changes in our DAW as well. Now for our triggers, because whenever we select them, they're held down, they're static, okay? We don't have to draw a long line here in our MIDI. We'll just come down to the correct area, which is going to be the 0 area. Come in here, and we'll trigger, say, C0 right here, right there. And then we could trigger C sharp right there, and say D up there. When I play that back, you're not going to hear anything, but you will see the trigger switch. Just like that. So then we can draw in our notes, or of course, play them in. I just take one note here, one long note, because of course the notes have to be, held down. And you'll hear this switch as it hits the triggers. Now, if you wanted to, you don't have to, but if you wanted to, there's nothing wrong with stretching these trigger notes across the entire timeline, how far you want them to actually go. It might help you whenever you're programming things in, just depends, but you don't have to. This little dot, just one note is more more than enough. So the action is exactly the same. We can also switch our themes with these arrows here. Just step through them. And we also have snapshots, factory snapshots. You can, of course, save your own snapshots. If you're on the eye here, just choose the camera, drop down. You can see all of the different snapshots in here. So if I load Desert Storm, that's going to load up that theme for me. Okay. And this here, we can see these are single phrases, not the major or minor. And keep in mind, what you hear in here is, of course, locked to our tempo here in Pro Tools in this case, or in Kontakt if you're running it in standalone. So if I change this to 90, that, of course, will lock to that. Now, also keep in mind, these are loops, right? These are audio loops. It's not MIDI, okay? Native Instruments recommends keeping your BPM somewhere between 100 and 250, and you should be able to use all of these phrases without any noticeable artifacts whenever you're in that range. Now, you can go above and below, but you might get artifacts. So if I really push this to 300 or something like that, not bad, not bad. But what if we take it to 40? Not good at all. So keep that in mind, okay? Let's go back to 120. And also keep in mind, if these phrases sound too fast or too slow for you, what I'm playing here in this demo, in this tutorial, you can, of course, change your tempo and adjust that. So again, here is your themes, but you can also switch things individually. So we can have different phrases here just by clicking on a phrase. So if I just want to change this C0 trigger here, I don't like it, click on it, and in here in the phrases browser, it's pretty much the same thing, but this, we click something, we get a preview of it. There's a bunch of phrases in here. And whenever you find something you like, again, double click it or use the check mark. If you want to back out, just use the X. All right. So I'll head back here. We can, of course, use our filters. If you want something from the high end, choose the high ensembles, the low ensembles, single pitch, melodic, and of course, a bunch of different time signatures that you can select from as well. Go to melodic. We'll choose this one here. Select it. And this one here is major minor. So whenever I trigger this one, again, major, triggered again here. Now it's minor, the same phrase, just a different mode. And of course, if I hit it really hard, I get that staccato. Now, if you have other things you want to load up here, we can load up to 10 different phrases. Same exact way. Use your filters if you want. Select that. Maybe select something else in here. Okay. And then we can trigger those with these notes, which are now added to our keyboard down here in red. All right. So select that one. Select that one. So let's come in here. I'm going to choose a different theme here. We'll just choose this one here. Now watch these triggers here as I switch through them and how I stay in time. Okay, so whenever we use our triggers there, it will switch us and keep us in time with our different phrases there. Don't forget, you can use more than one key at a time. Okay, so that is the main interface here in action strings, our slots 1 to 5, 6 to 10, how to use the triggers here. Again, our red keys, the velocity, which is again is very important. Now, if we have again single phrases, then that's not going to matter. As you can see up here, single P, so that's a single phrase. But again, some of these will have the major and the minor. Let me choose that one there. Select that and play up here. Major, down here, minor, and of course at the bottom, staccato. Now let's move on to the sound page. So over here in this sound page, we have our master settings and our reverb. Go to reverb first. Very easy to use, on or off. Pretty self-explanatory, right? Turn it on, choose your amount, and then choose your type. We can also step through those with these buttons here. That's too much. That will work. Over here to our master settings now. We have a master EQ, either off, shape 1 or shape 2. We can't adjust these. They're just preset shapes. Shape 1. Shape 2. So just mess around with that and choose what sounds best. Now dynamics, we have a boost, and this is a combination of compression and saturation. It's going to make things louder overall. Okay, then mic position, we are on the stage right now, but we also have far. Now, whenever I choose far, it's going to, of course, load new samples. So new samples loading right there. Let me turn the boost off. All right, so just choose whatever works best. Go back to stage. And that is our sound page. Now we have the playback page here. Trigger mode, phrase sync, or free trigger. We've been on phrase sync this whole time. So phrase sync, in this mode, each new played note that overlaps the previous note, or legato, will be automatically locked into the current phrase. Okay? So we've already seen this actually. Now legato means without breaks. So basically I'll still have a note held down while the other one comes in. I'll still be releasing that first note while the other note is being played, or the other chord, whatever you happen to be doing there. So I'm going up the scale here. And it's staying in time. It's not restarting the pattern. Now, if I actually release a key before I hit another key, it restarts every time. You may want that, you may not. Okay, but here in playback, if free trigger is on, so each new played note starts the phrase from its beginning, even when its note was played legato. All right, so I'll play legato again. Doesn't matter, just starts over every single time. Okay. So mess around with that. Probably most of the time you'll want phrase sync. And then we have our crossfade time. So, when switching to different phrases or when playing an overlap note with phrase sync on, that's going to be, of course, the crossfade time between those phrases. Right? A crossfade is the same thing you do in your DAW whenever you have two samples, two sounds, two tracks right next to each other. Then we have our tempo, pretty self-explanatory. This, of course, is going to be locked to our tempo here in Kontakt or tempo here in Pro Tools in this case. So I can half it. We're on 120 right now, so half will essentially take us down to 60, which is not going to sound good because we already know we want to keep this library somewhere between 100 and 250 BPM. But you can slow things down here in action strings instead of changing your tempo. 1-to-1 is, of course, whatever your tempo is set at in your DAW or Kontakt, and ×2 is obviously twice as fast. Okay, now let's come back here to our phrase sync, just so we're clear on what legato is. Again, if you watched the Emotive Strings video, you already know what this is, but let's do it here as well. So we'll just have a phrase playing there. Let's move it down a bit. Pull it out to about a bar or so. And then we're going to have another phrase up here. Right there. Now this note here, as you can see, it's overlapping this new note. So as long as it's overlapping just a bit and play. So it stayed in time here. But if I had this not overlapping, then it would not be legato. And it will restart that phrase. Okay? Same thing if we had this overlapping, but we had free trigger on. That is action strings. Everything you need to know about it there. So now, I'm just going to step through some of these themes here. Let's just check out some of the sounds. And of course, keep in mind, use your mod wheel to change your expression. Very important to make things sound more real. Come back here. Make sure I put phrase sync back on. The crossfade down a little bit. And try another one here. Just hear what we got. It's our staccato, of course. And this one is major or minor. Using a couple notes there. Of course, remember that ending note. Very important for ending your phrases. Just trigger that there. Keeping that note held down. Again, I'm not releasing the blue note. I'm just changing the triggers. All right. A lot of sounds in here. Not going to go through all of them. Just want to get an idea. That's major and minor. And then trigger that ending note there. Lots of phrases here. Staccato. That's a pretty cool one there, right? Let me actually play it a little bit. Pretty cool. So of course it's really easy to, combine these with, percussion, with other string libraries, much faster than trying to program all of these runs and all of these phrases in with a, single note string library. This is going to sound obviously more realistic because these phrases were actually played, and they're very useful phrases that you're going to hear all the time over and over and over. Switch. Pretty cool, man. All right, don't want to go through all of these because there's so many. It's our ending note there. Bunch of odd rhythms here. Basic rhythms low. It's a single phrase. All of these here are single phrases. Let's go up the scale. So you could, of course, lay down your low section first, have another instantiation of action strings here within one instantiation of Kontakt, and obviously just route that to the proper MIDI channel. Gets kind of muddy if you get too many notes in the low end there, but you can do it. All right, so again, remember your velocity, remember the single phrases, remember the major and minor, remember how to load your themes. Again, a theme is the entire set of 5 phrases that go together. If you want to change individual phrases, just choose a phrase, either in your slots 1 to 5 or slots 6 to 10, and switch them out with our phrase browser, and of course our filters here. Single pitch, so you can hear it's a single pitch. Nice marching sort of feel to that. Or melodic. Single pitch. Melodic. Double click it. Throw it right in there. The one you clicked. Again, remember, you can build this up to 10 phrases that you can, of course, trigger here with your notes. You can see one missing there. Trigger both of those because we don't have one loaded here in E0. Of course, if I loaded one in E0, any one at all, we get that key to switch to it. Okay. You can purchase Action Strings on its own or get it with Komplete Ultimate or Komplete Ultimate Collector's Edition. Action Strings will take up about 10 gigs on your hard drive. So that is Action Strings for Native Instruments Kontakt.